It's a pleasure. Good morning, Sachin.
Good morning.
Nice to have you. Good morning, everyone at your homes or at the center, wherever you are logged in. We are there. We are pumping in, and you should be seeing us anytime. Yeah, I see that you are receiving us. Good morning, everyone. Are you all able to hear me? Are you able to see us? Quick yes would help us. Welcome to everyone. It's a day that I definitely is going to cherish for long, and I'm sure each one of you too would have a good memories for years to come. Good morning, Sachin.
Good morning, Srini, and good morning to everyone who's logged in. I don't know if it's morning for everyone. Like, you never know, right? So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world.
Yeah, before we start off, few things that I would like to share with each one of you. Yes, the questions are coming. Kindly hold on to your questions. We are going to have substantial time to handle your questions. So I am going to make note of your questions as you progress. Don't bombard with too many questions up front. We are still to start. Managing time will be dealt with as we go along. Yeah, I am going to make mark of your questions. Be slow. Every question, every concern of yours will be addressed by end of the day. We will not log out till your questions are answered. Okay? So kindly be patient. I am Srinivasan here. Along with me, you just saw Sachin on the screen. Sachin is a very dear friend of mine and CL, and he has a great contribution towards what CL is today. Sachin, an alumnus of National Law School, University of India, from Bangalore, with almost 2 decades of experience that he has as a qualified lawyer. But more than lawyer, he has done quite a few path-breaking work for the nation and the world. Today, if each one of you is experiencing and getting facilitated through the law entrance, LST, all credit should go to Sachin. Sachin is the creator of this wonderful platform for enabling so many future legal illuminaries of this country. And he went on to create Rainmaker, that actually stepped into the bar and law space to facilitate people who are practicing post qualifications. Then Sachin is the creator of what is now very popular called Inclusive Planet. Inclusive Planet is a platform for differently enabled people to converse together, share their stories, hold hands, and then conquer the world. And now today, as I'm talking, he takes care of Ashoka. Ashoka is the power behind most of the non-governmental organizations that are doing wonderful work throughout the world. And he takes care of Ashoka Changemakers as executive directors. It's been amazing, these 20 years of Sachin's journey from being a student of an institution that each one of you aspires to go to, and from there he started the journey. Today, for him, the world is the platform, and he impacts lives around the world. I am sure each one of you in a decade or two will play such roles. So it's an honor and great opportunity for each one of us to have Sachin today. And believe you me, I am as enthusiastic and as eager as each one of you, because it's going to be an inspiring session for me too, as much as you. So hope you're all ready to get on with this session. If you're all ready, quickly say yes. And for you, if you have any technical issues, you have the mobile number on your chat box. Kindly make note of it. And any issues, kindly ping Divan there. He's sitting there. There's a whole team, a half a dozen people sitting there to help both of us to reach you out and to help you to take off in life. So if quickly say yes, and we will get on with the job. Quick yes would be a welcome. Yeah, Sachin, thanks a lot for coming in. I pulled you landing in India. It's so inspiring reading your stories, the way you are impacting. I watched quite a few your YouTube videos, and really I'm really glad that I know you and you know me. You know, it's it's wonderful. I actually see so much that's going to unfold. So my first 50 years over, next 50 years, I see people like you with whom that the personal relationships and the professional relationships, the way we all together can really impact the world. Thank you very much for accepting and being part of this session.
Thank you, Srini. It's a huge privilege. And just to, I won't speak too much about the wonderful personal relationships that I enjoy with you and others in the CL community. But I will say that I have grown so much in interaction with everyone who's a part of the Career Launcher community. And it's just great. And, you know, yes, I landed in India after 6 weeks outside, but I feel so full of energy, precisely because I know on the other side there's so many young people. And to be honest, there's no greater work that I've done in my life than the work with young aspirants in legal education.
Thank you. And there are going to be many parents, because most of the students have logged in from home. There are parents there. I welcome all parents too for this session. I'm glad that you are joining this session, and not just for your wards and your children this is going to benefit. I am sure when you're going to talk to anyone else, you are going to impact, and you are the ambassadors for the entire law fraternity, legal fraternity, and for each one of us. Sachin, let's start this journey by you sharing, because each one is aspiring to get into that institution where you spent your 5 long years, and the grounding, the kind of foundation that was laid for your journey. So could you just share a little bit about that journey?
Great. So I'll talk a little bit about the law school experience. I was in National Law School from 97 to 2002. 5 amazing years. And I think that for me, what was the most amazing thing was that, one, the community in college itself, the people who are my classmates and my seniors and juniors. Because when you're thrown into close contact with a high quality group of people, and by high quality, we don't mean only academically gifted, but creatively gifted. People like Srini, who are amazing photographers and creative minds. And so that's the kind of group that law school attracted, and that 400 people at any given point in time was an amazing, cauldron to grow and develop and look at and find new ways of thinking, rather than just being stuck with one way of looking at the world. So I think that for me, the selection of people, and this is something remarkable about legal education in India, at least at the top 10, 12 institutes, that the quality of people is a real mix of people who did science and arts and commerce, and not just from the streams, but also from different aspects of society and parts of the country. So that mix, that unique mix, because law is not, everyone, different people come at it from different angles. It creates a unique mix. And you might think that, wow, Sachin started speaking first about the people he went to college with. But Srini will tell you that, the people you went to college with influence you maybe as much or more than your teachers. And they are the ones who you're having the conversations with them at night, late at night, you're having your cup of chai and you're chatting about like life and philosophy and the different aspects of studies as well. So that I think is a remarkable thing. Another thing I'll mention about my law school experience was that, sorry, go ahead, Srini.
I am just interrupting Sachin here. I am getting few messages here about voice not getting clear. Kindly take care of, kindly set it out there at your own place. We will go a little slow in the beginning, 5-10 minutes, so that each one of you at each of these centers or you're at home, kindly tune in, so that, because I also sincerely apologize, because we both are from 2 different cities. Right now, as you are logging in from your home, Sachin is from Bangalore, I am sitting in Delhi. So we are taking Sachin's voice and video pipeline from Bangalore. It is coming into studios and it is getting pumped. So I just humbly request each one of you to bear with us. Make sure that your doors, windows, everything is closed, because that definitely technology has to reach so many thousands of miles. It may have the pauses. So kindly bear with us, kindly manage. We are trying our level best. There is a team outside the studio which is managing so kindly look at it. We are all logged on broadband. We are all logged on the very high end of technology. So nothing on mobile. Okay, so we are doing the best. Possibly many a times the last mile connection, if you are logged on to broadband, most probably you will have greater clarity. If you are on the mobiles, maybe the last mile is an issue. So kindly bear with us. So kindly check your internet speeds. We are trying our level best to reach to you, and let us get as clearly as possible. So make sure your environment is soundproof and you are able to hear us. We are trying to do best. I am sitting in the studio. I can hear Sachin with great clarity, and I'm sure you are able to hear me with great clarity. Yep. Okay. Okay. Shall we go ahead? Kindly, as being said from different centers, some people are giving advice. Quickly, whenever there's a challenge, refresh the page. It's working. So somebody from Mumbai is saying, just refresh the page. It is working for me. Okay. And somebody else is saying that it is not a big issue. Refresh the page. It's happening. Okay. So these are a few things that kindly do. And I am getting back to Sachin to go ahead. Sachin, yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also mindful, of any noise in my, I'm at home, and today is Sunday. So there's, lots of activity, but if there's too much noise around me, I'll also just, take whatever precautions, and I'll talk nice and slow, to make sure that all of you can follow me. So just picking up from what I was saying, for me, as I said, one of the most powerful things was the peer community, because all the research and data, everything shows the same thing that my personal experience showed, that your peer community, especially, high school, then after that college, the platform that is there, is really through your peers. You learn so much, the quality of thinking, the way you're challenged. So I think that was really powerful for me to be in a highly diverse environment, people not just looking at it from a sciences, engineering, but like a mix of thinking. And that was really powerful. The other thing that I think was strong was that unlike, for me, of course, 5 years, you study a lot. You study all the different laws, and you may find some of them more interesting than others. Like I loved criminal law, and I loved intellectual property, and I've always loved detective novels. So, so I love criminal law, I was always thinking like, and even now to this day, when I'm sometimes like looking at a police detective show, you're kind of thinking about stuff there. So I love the subjects, but the skills were actually even stronger. So the subjects are great, but the ability to articulate and present your point of view, the ability to test out your point of view, because we have this big problem in our country. I'm sure you noticed it. Everybody seems convinced by their point of view, and this idea that I know, I would say that in our philosophy and tradition of this country, I don't know is a much more powerful philosophy than I know. So I don't know is a very powerful way of thinking. And I think in law school, I don't know and I would like to know and test and understand. That's a methodology. That's a way of thinking that is again built on. Then the analytical process of deducing something and understanding something. If there are some areas where law schools have historically been weak, it is about the creative process. And I think this is where a lot of my interest is in the future. And I think this is where they can continue to become better. But in the analytical process, the argumentative, the didactic, the articulation, they are very strong. So what you go through in 5 years, of course, you will learn a lot of laws. But for me, it was a making of the mind. And not just the making of the mind, making of the personality and character by interacting with everyone. So I think that those are 5, and of course having a blast, because when you're studying with people who come from different mindsets and approaches, usually the net effect is more fun. I don't know if you know, but some of the best music festivals in the country are held at law schools. Some of the most creative stuff coming out, not necessarily because the curriculum in the law schools, like I said, that's not the most creative, and that can be do more in terms of spurring creativity, but the quality of students is bringing out a lot of creativity. So I'll just say it was an amazing 5 years. I was at the National Law School. When I joined, the National Law School was like the only, the college everyone wanted to go to. But let me tell you that I saw, even in the 5 years I studied at National Law School, that all these other amazing national law schools were created, like NLSIU and UJS. In fact, in the first year, the joke was if we were to meet someone in a competition of some kind, an inter-college competition, the national law school would be just like dominant, But 98, 99, progressively we saw the NLSIU, NUJS, NLU Delhi, NLIU Bhopal, NLU Jodhpur, their students, ILS Pune, GLC, their students getting stronger and stronger. That's when we knew that it's no longer about the National Law School in Bangalore. So it was an amazing experience, 5 years. I can say more about it. I can speak for hours, but I'm going to stop at this point in time and, ask Srini to, direct me in whichever way I should share.
The National Law School a little bit and how the institution is. Before we go deeper there, I would like you to share about your journey thus far, because that would set a platform for everyone. What is the scope? Because most of the times the presumption is law school and you will wear a vardi. Most of the times you will see, not to belittle, but most of the times you will see the cloak worn, and on a bicycle they'll see the lawyer going to the nearest court. So that's the usual conventional thinking. So what first we will, I would like to, for us and for all the parents and the students, just take your journey. It's like you share my journey, so that I think in the part of, because I always believe there is so much to learn from the story. So wherever I've been in heading business school or wherever, I always brought people of great eminence to share this call, because that's a patent, is my journey series. So could you just take a 10-15 minutes to just share that journey? If there are questions coming in, maybe I will stop. If I have something, maybe I'll raise my hand to ask. But that would be a wonderful way of setting the platform. Over to you, Sachin.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share, Srini. I went to school in Calcutta, and I'm sure that there's a bunch of people logging in from Calcutta, and hi to all my fellow Calcuttans. Very, very close to my heart, the city. I must confess that when I came to law school, I wasn't sure I wanted to be a lawyer. I wasn't sure. And because, 17-year-olds, it's okay if you're not sure. I mean, first of all, we have to understand that it's the 30-year-old, it's okay if you're not sure. Life is about being, I don't know, like I said, I don't know is more powerful than I know. And somehow in our society, the problem is that we want people push us to be sure because there's a little bit of anxiety of course the financial success and things. So how do you balance out the clarity that you need to take steps now, but recognize that you don't know what ultimately the future holds? But so it's always a balance, and I think that maintaining the balance is really important rather than kind of creating a mind which is so sure that it misses the real opportunities in life. And I think this is important. Like, you don't want to miss the real opportunities in life by not looking. You've always got to keep your senses open. So when I went to law school, like I said, I wasn't sure I wanted to be a lawyer. But when I got to law school, I really enjoyed the experience, and it sort of broadened my mind, and the study of the law broadened my mind, and I'll share with you what my journey was. That 97 when I joined law school, in 99 something very interesting was happening in India. Recently a documentary came out. I think India in the 80s, and then there was another documentary called India in the 90s. And as you know, India in the 80s and 90s went through huge transformation. And 98, 99 was huge entrepreneurial boom that happened, like what was called the dot-com boom in the West. But here, there was this feeling amongst people that you could channel your creativity into building ventures and businesses and ideas. You could do that. There was a feeling. And you must understand that today, for young people, this seems a normal, natural thing. But Srini will know that it was not like that. We were coming from a mindset where service, get a job, this is what it looks like. And anyone who didn't do that was a total radical, So I would say that, in 98, 99, this infected me, this idea that I can create something of my own. And it infected me, and maybe a little seed was always there, but I really think I wanted to, do something creative like that, like creating something. And so I was in 99, I was in my, ending my second year, beginning my third year in law school, when we created law school tutorials, because two things were interesting, which is one, we recognized that more and more students were getting interested in studying law, and the entrance exam was a black box. Like, people didn't know how to prepare for it. There was no support also. It was not just the entrance exam. It was also like, how am I supposed to do this? What does this involve? So there was such a lack of support, and we said, what, me and a few of my friends there, we said we could create something. And the other thing that was happening is, right now you see chat, and chat is a very basic thing like Zoom and chat. But at that time, there was these early systems like GChat, and even before that, there were systems that, there were chat systems that a lot of people in the 80s and 90s smile about, but some old chat systems were there. But we said, let's use technology to reach out, because we were still studying in college. So that's where we created this idea of law school tutorials, what is today LST or CL. And it was funny because in the fourth year, when I was in my fourth year, there were students coming in through the LST course who were my juniors. So it was, of course, it was quite an interesting experience. But, for me, I will say this, that I had no idea about the full extent of what I was creating, because when I co-founded LST, I created something, this course for admission into the law schools. But, the joy that came from interacting with the students and then interacting with them in person, because I was still in college. So in the early months, I hadn't interacted much in person. It was more like email and phone and letters. But imagine the joy when we started to teach in classrooms. And that's when I realized the tremendous power of young India. And when I came into contact with the 15, 16, 17-year-olds, people, so many of you here, and I tapped into the dreams that you have, that's when I realized that why this was special to me. And the next 10 years of that journey a continuing journey, I would say, I mean, even today is a part of that journey, were because I came into contact with so many young people, and I realized that you need, you're craving guidance and mentorship, and when we get that, and all of us, I'm craving guidance and mentorship as well. But when we get that, it has this effect of connecting us to our full potential. And our full potential is a big thing. Sometimes you're scared by our full potential, but helping young people achieve their full potential. And what I felt really great about was that more and more I was convinced that studying law or going to law school was an amazing way to unleash full potential for young people, because it was such a powerful learning and such a powerful process. And we can talk more about that. But I saw that in the journey from 99 to 2008, when I was still doing classes, and today, unfortunately, I don't do so much, but till 2008, that I saw those young people go from high school into law schools and come out and become lawyers. So I know when today so many young lawyers in the country are people who went through law school tutorials. You'll be shocked. Close to, I think every year, out of the top 10 law schools, 80% of those graduating are former law school tutorial students. So they were students. And that amazing alumnus, I mean, just is remarkable. So it's been a very rewarding thing. I've seen people become, classic lawyers with white shirts, suits, with their cloaks, arguing. I've seen people join companies, not just as company lawyers, but business leads, people joining consulting firms. I've seen, and more, I'll tell you, this is my personal joy, more and more I've seen people taking on radical career steps and doing amazing things, becoming well-known journalists, more and more entrepreneurs. I mean, when I created law school tutorials, and I'm not saying this as a compliment to myself, it's a tragedy that there was very few people in the legal community doing entrepreneurship, starting something. But today, I can name to you 10 people who are from the law school community who started their own ventures. Many of them, some of the people, will know about. So you end up using their services and their products, which is amazing. So after 2000, Srini, as you asked me, 2006, I was heart and soul in building law school tutorials. But there's a little story there, which is after I finished law school, the National Law School, I didn't actually start working on this on LST, law school tutorials, full time. I was working. I actually joined a law firm. I joined a law firm called Amachan Mangaldas, which is widely regarded as the leading law firm in the country. And I joined in Bombay, and I worked as a mergers and acquisitions lawyer. So I got a taste of, I worked with an amazing senior lawyer who was my mentor. And he was, of course, upset that I left to spend all my time on law school tutorials. He was upset because he felt that, I could learn more at Amachan. But it was an amazing experience to work at the leading law firm. And I'll tell you a little bit about that as well. So 2006, I continued working, and I partnered with Career Launcher, which I think was huge because Career Launcher helped LST grow up. LST was still small, and Career Launcher, with all its kind of mentors, Srini, Satya, and so many people that you probably have interacted with, helped law school tutorials go all over the country. Today, the reason why we are in Hisar and smaller cities all over the country, and not just in the big cities, is because of Career Launcher. And that was one of my great life joys. From 2004 to 2006, traveling to the small cities and discovering that the potential of young people is sometimes not just as much, but more, because they're hungry for more and they're very grounded and connected with what's happening in India. Amazing experience, So 2006, I had the itch to create something again, as entrepreneurs do. They have sometimes this itch. And I created an organization called Rainmaker, which was focused on the skills that lawyers would need after they finish law school. So when you finish law school and you become a practicing lawyer, or you become whatever, professional in whichever area, or an entrepreneur, what are the skills that you need? And I built Rainmaker. Today, Rainmaker has split into 2-3 different organizations, each of which are leaders in their field. The leading talent organization in the field, in the legal field, is called Bahura. That was came out of that. mylaw.net, so if you check out mylaw.net, is another thing that came out of Rainmaker. Each headed by amazing people who were co-founders in the early years. And 2000 and that continued till 2009. I still stay involved with some of them. 2009 was a really important time in my life, and I'll just mention that very briefly. But 2009 was when I really reflected on my learnings as an entrepreneur, as a lawyer, and I felt that I really felt like I wanted to have even greater social impact in my work. I felt like the most powerful kind of entrepreneur is what I would call a social entrepreneur. Someone who uses their entrepreneurial capabilities not just to build a market or to make money, but to transform society. And I really wanted to give more and more of my time for that. And that was happening in some ways through my earlier work, but I was really interested in working very directly in this space. And that's what began the journey, which ultimately led me into my current role, which is the executive director of the Changemakers program. It's an international program of Ashoka. Ashoka, many people get confused between Ashoka and Ashoka University. Ashoka University is an amazing university, but it's very young. It's just been here a few years. Ashoka is amongst the top 5 nonprofits in the world. Many Nobel Prize winners, Magsaysay Prize winners, Muhammad Yunus, Kailash Satyarthi, Malala Yousafzai, many people have been Ashoka Fellows. And in India as well, Anshu Gupta, Ila Bhatt of Seva, so many people. And Changemakers is a very large part of Ashoka, and I've been leading that in the last 6 years to focus on how entrepreneurs can work together on complex issues, because sometimes some of these bigger problems like environment or mental health, they're not going to be solved by one person or by one leader, but by many people working together, and most importantly by making it possible for people to believe that they can make big change. And I'm still with that, and I have some ideas. After 6 years in the US, I've just moved back to India. I always wanted to be back here. My wife always laughs about it, but she says, it's crazy, but you're not global. You're Indian, and I'm like, yeah, that's the difference between being some kind of floating, I can be anywhere in the world, versus being a global Indian. Right? My attachment to this country is tremendous, and I wanted to come back. So just 6 months back, I moved back here, and I have some ideas in terms of what I want to do. But I just leave by saying that one of the big strands of everything I've done is this realization that everyone can unleash their full potential if they're committed to that. And that's really important, because sometimes in life you can shut that off. Various things can happen, you can close that. But as young people and as parents of young people, I'll say it's a big loss in life if you don't be honest to your full potential. So, Srini, more there, but just thought I'll give a brief glimpse.
Sachin, I can't tell you how much I am taking away from this session. As you're talking about your journey, a lot of things I am thinking about, though it may not be of the context for the youngsters there. But if somebody at 50 can take away so much from what you're sharing, I am sure the students there and the parents who are attending the sessions will have so much to take. As rightly said, it is important to ask at some point of time that what is it that I and you can do to impact the society at large. And when I look at the kind of, because I have been a technologist going to part of things happened JNU IIT, then I went to IIMs and so on and so forth. But I always felt, and rightly so, perhaps the whole national, the movement of the freedom was powered by lawyers, and most of the changes that can happen through the lawyers, because law as a program has inputs from such a varieties of courses that it's unimaginable. All things come together. I always felt that why I did not do law. So vicariously through such programs at LST and seeing the past. So every year I anchor, I have done the Also, when students qualify CLAT, we have sessions where parents and students come back to share with the rest of the students. I think there I gained immensely. So it's wonderful. So there are a couple of perhaps some questions. I will take it up right now. I'll throw at you because I'm sure the people are thinking that, yeah, why should I wait for another half an hour for me to, yeah. There's few simple threads there. One of the thread is, sir, do you think now I've started preparing seriously? I got to know only recently, and class 12 exams are over. Now 1 month left. Is it enough time with us for preparing? Though we'll get into preparation a little later. So I thought the higher level of questions we address, then they'll open the book to go deeper. So that's what I'm throwing at you right now.
Okay, great. Yeah. So in my experience, and I would qualify in my experience. See, the thing is, the law exam, as you know, is an aptitude test. It's not like IIT or medicine, where you have huge amounts of information to gather, huge amount of conceptual learning to do. It's an aptitude test, which means that it tests your communication, your English, and your basic math, and your logical reasoning, and your legal aptitude. Like, it's all aptitude. It's all. That doesn't mean there's no preparation needed, because very often what happens is that these things are rough, and it's a highly competitive exam. So therefore, you need to be as practiced in those ways of logical thinking. So what I would just say is that, unlike those courses where it takes a long time because you're learning a lot of stuff conceptually, the law exam allows for quicker preparation. However, yes, it's a fact. You are, if there are fundamental weaknesses, then like in terms of some of these areas, especially around English and maths, it's quite basic. So if seriously, it's not a big deal. But with English and with logical reasoning, if there's some fundamental weaknesses that you haven't had time to really work on, because all of us can improve them, it's a question of time, then longer preparation helps. But you can be smart about it. So my short answer, Srini, to that question, and we can get into details later, and we can also hold some of these questions for other people. But my short answer is that yes, it's possible, but you've got to really get a very good sense of your own strengths and weaknesses, and then play to those strengths and weaknesses. You've got to know that what you can achieve in a month and a half, and what you can't achieve, and where you need to focus. Because no exam you need to get 100%. You need to get what you need to get. You need to look at your kind of like the top. You need to look at the bell curve, right? The top 1% or the top 5% of people performing. So that's a question of also knowing your weaknesses and strengths. So Srini, yes, you can prepare a lot because it's an aptitude test. It allows you to do that, and because it builds on your basic subjects, which anyway you've been doing in school. You can do that, but you need to move on it because it's a competitive exam, and people are really sharpening those areas of basic studies here.
Significant chunk of people who get into the crash programs or express programs, and in 30 days they managed. About 30-40% of people who get into national law schools have actually been part of express program. Okay, because this is the time you get 24/7, whole of the month. It is for you, and how disciplined can you be? That is a fundamental. And when you take the mock examinations, you will get to know that where you are strong, where you are weak. I'm sure you need to, as Sachin saying, pinpoint the areas of concern and need to work. Don't worry. Right now, your focus has to be on studying with discipline. You should not be worried about the result. Never ever in life think about the result. It is all about hard work I can pump in, and I can tell you, you will be surprised when the results come. Yeah, year after year, people are amazed. Wow. Okay? So don't worry about it. Yeah, the other question, Sachin, is right now that has come because people are impatient, their questions are not getting answered. So that's why I thought I'll prepone some of this segment here. Yeah, it looks like vocabulary is tough. How do I improve vocabulary in these 30 days? Yes, our 17 years of work cannot be done in 30 days, but when you got the material focuses on the vocabulary. That is very important. Looking at over the past question papers, past 25 years of question papers, you don't have to do really much. Okay. Yeah, Sachin, could you elaborate on anything more on how do I increase my felicity with English?
Yeah, English is another area where I would say it's such a big area that if you consider it to be a strength, then that's fine. Then you can just focus on the subjects, and that's fine. You can build on that strength by amplifying your vocabulary by reading lists of important words and stuff. Because I think reading you can't read the whole dictionary, but by now most even the LST materials contain lists of important words, and past papers will give you a sense of like what kind of vocabulary is more important than other kinds. So you can, even if your fundamental English is strong, you can really say, okay, how do I go from getting 90% in English to 100%? You can do that. But if you feel your fundamental English is not so strong, and you can take the mock exams and kind of get a grip on that, then I would really say you need to shift your focus to areas where you can make a difference in a month, in 35 days. You can shift your focus into those areas. And how do you shift your focus? How do you say, okay, look, reading comprehension is critical. Let me look at the past papers. Let me analyze them. Let me do that. So I think the difference between doing a mock exam, doing several mock exams, and being confident that your English is very strong is that allows you to just top up by some areas where it's not fundamentals of English but learning words and stuff, so you can top that up. But if your English is not so strong, and you discover that, then it's more sectional. Then it's understanding what are the sections that you really need to focus on, reading comprehension, because it's not just enough for you to just add on more words in your vocabulary. Unlike the person whose English is fundamentally strong, you can't just get 20% in English. You have to get at least 60-65% in the English section. So I think different strategies for you depending upon your language capabilities. I've seen some people, I'm just being really blunt, that people whose English is strong, some of them just do vocabulary building by lists of words. Okay, they just do tests. That's it. They just do tests and vocabulary building. But if the English is not so strong, those people may have to be on a regimen, on a plan for how to improve your strength in reading comprehension, improve your certain types of sentence structuring. And so it's getting a grip in the first 2 days. I would say, like now, 48 hours on where you are is much more important than beginning studies immediately.
Except for a couple of people who are saying that they have some issues with refreshing. Kindly, whenever you get stuck, because this is an interactive mode, as you realize, it's not one way, kindly make sure that whenever you are stuck, you refresh so that you get a better throughput. Yeah. Okay. Before we go ahead, there are a few questions on preparation. A lot of things have been addressed by Sachin in terms of increasing the score. It is same. It is 30 days, and you can definitely do on vocabulary. He spoke about on English. He spoke about and quant sections. More about each one of these in terms of how to prepare, how to crack the mock, how do I attempt, all these things. As we go along, you are all going to take many mocks, and many of these mocks will be also taken by the best of the faculty, and you will get a peep into how he or she is going to take a mock. You will see mock a big boss coming up pretty soon, where if you're glued to your screens, you will see somebody taking the mock. So you will appreciate how he or she, there are so many more things coming. So be patient, be persevering at what you do. That is very, very important. I can tell you, if you can have a little bit of more patience by regularly working hard, in next 2 weeks, you will be able to answer all these questions yourself. How to manage 30 days, how to manage time, how to be the best to take the exam, how well you can take the exam. All those things you will see and you will appreciate it. Okay. Okay. Sachin, on little bit on the bigger perspective, maybe as we will wait for more such questions coming towards the end. The questions are now, how is NLUs different from other national law schools? Or said in other words, how are other national law schools different from NLUs? Are other national law schools good enough for us to join? That's the question. So before I throw it to Sachin, I just want to answer quickly and I'll throw it to Sachin. I simply want to say, friends, right now don't think about the results. Kindly believe, visualize every day that you are sitting in the law school. So that's the way to go, okay? Do not think of the second and third levels right now. Each one of you, if Sachin has made it to a national law school, if I have made it to IIMs, we have made it to IIMs simply because we believed that we are good and work hard and we'll make it. Over to you, Sachin.
Yeah. Before I answer that very quickly, Srini, I'll just say to everyone, I don't know if this matters, but I wish you will listen to me carefully. In my 10 years, 10 active years between 99 and 2008, 2009, actively teaching students, and not just guiding and mentoring, but really working with them very closely in the admissions process. I must have seen over 25,000 students go through the process. And of these, so many people who I know personally, I know when they came to the center or to the office and said, "Sir, मेरा क्या होगा? मुझे डर है इसके बारे में कि ये ठीक नहीं है, वो ठीक नहीं है, and I'm concerned." And I saw one pattern consistently. Either you can let the anxiety and fear be your master, or you can use your anxiety and fear and just really be disciplined, really be committed. And I know it sounds like a generalization, but so many people did such miracles in short periods of time with things. This is not a super short period, but I know someone who came from a Hindi medium school, okay, and coming from that environment and then being able to brilliant, because we know that that doesn't mean anything about your intellectual and intelligent basic IQ and EQ. It doesn't. But unfortunately, the English section is a challenging part of the National Law School exams, and it is a barrier. I don't know, it's a big conversation we need to have in our country about whether it should be such a big barrier, but right now it is a barrier. And that person came and said, I think I'll be able to make it. And I said, you can, but you'll have to do magic. And he did magic. And he did magic just, by his commitment. So I'll say, to Shrini's point, that you can constantly be in the whole mantra of like, I am anxious, I am fearful, I am not good. Or you can just believe and focus and do this and trust that something good will come out of it. And in terms of something good coming out of it, there was a time when I was taking the exams. Much fewer people used to take the National Law School exams in 97, maybe 4,000 or so. But there was only National Law School. And maybe, and of course, some that were not through the exam, not through the CLAT, the law exam, but through different processes like ILS, symbiosis, But in the last 20 years, we've seen so many good institutes. And I'm careful by framing so many good institutes. Of course, we've seen many institutes. But we've also seen many good institutes come up for law. So today, unlike that time, you have almost 15 to 16 excellent institutes, or maybe excellent is a very high bar. So very good institutes. You have the national law schools, which is all the national law universities, right? They're all one per state mostly, and they're all pretty good. Of course, there's better ones. There was a recent ranking also that kind of laid them out. But I would say 15, 16 good institutes in the country to choose from. And a few more, maybe 10 after that. So just keep it in perspective that it's not as if, there are seats. But in our country, with the competitive exams, nothing is achieved, just like, oh, that's it. It's waiting for me. It's not waiting for you. You will have to work really hard. There's no mincing words. You will have to work really hard. Hear it from me again and again and again. That's what everybody did. All the 20,000 who went through the process. So as long as you're committed to that, and you can sprint and clear your mind and just do that, then you got to trust that good things will
happen. A corollary to the question that I see few people are asking, Sachin, is does it make sense for me to drop a year if I don't get through this year and focus on for 1 year and get to national law school? Is it worth dropping a year?
Here's my viewpoint. My viewpoint is I have seen both situations. People who dropped a year and got in the next year, and people who went to college, some college, and from there they switched. They continued. They took the exam again and they got in the next year. I have seen that, and there are pros and cons. So there's no black and white answer. All I'll say is that I've also seen something else, which is 1 month before the exam, you've already made up your mind that this is not happening this year. That is something I've seen more than everything else. Okay? That's the psychology. Ask yourself honestly, is that the right psychology? No, that is not the right psychology. Okay? You've got to commit to this year. Really go for it. And come to decisions like whether you want to drop the second year, the year after, and take it again. I don't think right now is the time for that. So pardon me for saying it. Srini, I commit to having a conversation after the exam later, if anyone wants to. This point in time, I'm not interested in answering that question because of my experience that usually happens when in your mind, you're not committing to this.
Very rightly said, Sachin. See, I want to put a perspective here. If you're watching the IPL happening, look at so many matches. I think there are only 7-8 matches that have happened. Look at so many matches. It looks like a gone case, and last night's match, one person believed that he can take Delhi across Mumbai, and he made it happen. And the runs that the winning run came on the last ball. Kindly understand, till you don't finish the exam and put the pen down there at the end of those hours of the examination, the match has not yet finished. So we have 30 days. 30 days in the nets is going to make all the difference, friends. So let's not even talk about it, rightly. Thank you, Sachin, that you did not address that question. That's the way to go about. Yeah, just believe, just go after it. It's like for 30 days, you don't have anything else. You exist and CLAT exists. That's the way we need to go. Yep. For any help, any given point of time, you need help. CL centers are there, CL classrooms are there. Every afternoon, you have additional classes coming through this medium into your homes. You can interact, you can talk, you can quiz, you can send mails. And every person in CL ecosystem is geared towards only one thing, to make sure you are in the National Law School. So kindly believe and just go after it. Yeah.
Amy, can I just share something? You said, we talk a lot about hard work, and we hear it again and again. I just want to share something that I learned about doing the right hard work. Okay. I think you know what I'm talking about. Doing the right hard work. And the amazing part is that when we as young people, and I maybe I can't call myself that anymore, now that I'm 40, but I just want to say that when we look at like people who are successes, who are icons, and I'm a huge tennis fan, I think some people know that. Yeah, just 1 second. There's some noise. Just give me a second. Srini, I'll just get this switched off and come. Give me a second.
Yeah. Now as Sachin is coming back because there was some noise outside, I would once again say, even if you have got to log out and log in, reboot the system, if you have any issues, quickly do it. It may take 3-4 minutes for you to come back, and you're not going to lose anything because the whole session is going to be canned and put it up much later. But for you, kindly do it. Okay? Just go. If you have issues, refresh. Even if on refreshing it is not happening, shut down the system and come back. I can tell you thousands of people are watching this show. Only 3-4 of you are repeatedly asking. Therefore, there is some issue at your end. Kindly do it. It will be of value. Yes, as Sachin said, we will address these issues. Kindly take the exams. Kindly prepare and kindly take the exams, all those exams that will give you opportunity to get into any law school. First do that. Which law school to go, which law school to join, we will take the calls when the results come. So you don't have to right now worry. Right now your issue is to prepare, take the exam. That is the only thing. Take all exams. I'm sure you applied all for national law schools and other law schools within your. For example, somebody is talking about MHCAT, somebody is talking about Jindal, somebody is talking about Symbiosis. This opportunity, if you ever take the exam again, it will come only after an year. So there is no harm in applying for every of these law school programs and taking the exam. I can tell you, if you're disciplined and you're purposeful, you will be surprised. And I and Sachin will see you in one of the national law schools next year. So right now, don't worry. And those who are not able to, log in, log out, and log in. Okay?
Sorry everyone. You know how it's wonderful. Like in India, like first of all, drilling and construction has become like something we just do because we love it. It's like part of the social fabric. Let's drill and construct. Let's always keep reconstructing, renovating, and that too on a Sunday. It's amazing. But someone in the neighborhood is getting a little too excited with the drill, so please don't mind. I'll just complete my thought, what I was saying when we were disturbed, which is we look at so many of these celebrities, these sports people and the actors and actresses, and we just don't see the level of hard work that gets put in to getting there and to doing what they do. I'm a huge tennis fan, and anyone who is a fan of Roger Federer, right? Like remarkable. And after playing tennis for 25 years, at the age of 36, he decided that he needed to change his backhand to win against his nemesis, Rafael Nadal. And at the age of, after 25 years of winning everything and playing tennis and getting so used to it, it's a bit like, imagine you're a right-handed writer and then you change to left hand. And he had to change his backhand. And he spent 6 months, and now they're talking about what he did to change that level of commitment. At the end of your career, you still have the energy and the desire to want to do that. That is something we can learn to do the right hard work. And I would just say to everyone that if you're already doing so much hard work, school and stuff, and you've probably also done the right hard work, but this is something that's going to come to you again and again in life, doing the right hard work. And we also do the wrong hard work. We also sometimes just do stuff without like a reason or thinking it through properly. Avoid that. You don't have time. Time is not a luxury that you have. So I'd really urge that, how can you do the right hard work is an important question for you.
So still there are many more questions coming on. Is Jamia better? Is Jindal better? So as I rightly said, Sachin also rightly said, now is the time for you to just prepare and give the exam. Do not worry about where and which course. Give your best. As repeatedly said, I've been typing also, addressing each one of your queries. It's time to prepare, give your best, take all exams. Don't worry about it. It may cost you little to apply for the forms, but I can tell you, if you are religious, if you are determined, then you are going to make it. Don't question. Let you have choices in front of you. 6 weeks down the line, you have offer letters from everything. Then you ask where to go. Don't right now ask where to go. Now you ask how to prepare, what to prepare, how strategy, and so on and so forth. These are the questions coming up. I also would like to say we will dive deeper about strategy and so on and so forth in the sessions that are going to be mock-centric sessions. Yeah, that will happen pretty soon. In this week, in the coming weeks, mock sessions, we will threadbare analyze the test-taking strategy. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Sachin, is there anything that you would like to add, or should we move to the next phase?
Let's move to the next phase. That makes sense.
So I will come back to perhaps towards the end on test taking. Many of us are not aware of what does this law program really lead us to. Yeah. What are the specializations? Is everybody a same lawyer? What are the different possibilities as a law professional? And what are the specializations that one can really do? What kind of work one can do? There are questions, as I could see people asking, is law only route to social service? Anybody can get into social service, but stepping back, I would like to ask Sachin, could you throw a little bit more light on law as a course, as a subjects? What are the specialization that we deal with, and what are the possible channels or the paths that one can take after one finishes the law program? Over to Sachin.
Thank you. And if there is some noise that comes, please, there is some construction happening. Please forgive me. Srini, if it gets at any point too bad, I will put my headphones on, because that will make it a little more, microphone will be more constrained there. So let me know if that sounds like a good idea at any point. Okay.
Now, Sachin.
Okay, great. So just share with all of you. So, the thing is, there is a foundational course in law, of course, the LLB, which is what you take, which covers all the basic subjects in the law. But I don't know if people know that the LLB is combined with an undergrad course, right? So like you do a BA or a BSc or a BCom, and different colleges offer you opportunities to do a BA LLB or a BCom LLB or a BSc LLB. The most common here and the most is the BA LLB, because to be really honest, also BA is the law is strongly related to a liberal arts background. So law requires a liberal arts mindset where you have a good understanding of things like sociology, economics, political science, because that gives you the better context to understand law. It helps you to understand why certain things are the way that they are. This is not to say that the sciences are not important. In some areas of the law, for instance, you need to have technical capabilities like patent law or intellectual property law. If you're looking at inventions and things and how to protect inventions like software or technology machines. But that's a very focused thing. In general, providing that BA foundation is a really good, I think it's a healthy practice. So, but that's not a part of your LLB, your law degree, even though today the national law schools offer the integrated process, which after you finish school, you do the integrated. So you get your bachelor's and then you do you get your bachelor's in arts or commerce or science, and then you do your LLB. In terms of specializations, look, in your final year, you can pick subjects that you feel more interested in, right? And there's a very wide range. If you feel that you're drawn to ultimately being in the courts and litigating and arguing in front of the courts and tribunals, then there are certain specializations you can take for that. You can improve your drafting, how you write something. You can improve your understanding of court procedure. If you want to work in intellectual property, you can do intellectual property. If you think business and corporate is your future, then there are specialist subjects for that. So there are many specializations that are possible, and more specializations are coming in. Where people can study. For instance, in my final year, and this was a long time back, we had negotiation, which was, I remember, an amazing course, because negotiation is such an essential part of being a lawyer. Whether you're negotiating disputes, or you're negotiating deals, or you're negotiating challenges, whatever it is, negotiation was essential. So, Srini, specialization, it happens at different levels, but really it's in your last stages that you start to really specialize. Though there are people, like a lot of people I went to college with, who were interested more in one thing than the other, so they really spent more time working on those things, and you have flexibility to be able to do that. At the same time, I think there's a bigger question here, which is, what is possible with legal education? What is possible with law school? And most people have this notion that law school leads to a certain fixed career options. If you look at it, currently the National Law School, the campus placements are going on. And of course, most people go into law firms and join companies as legal counsel. Many people go into litigation, which I think is an amazing thing. But people also go into business consulting. So there's a wide variety. And some people, they are not sure that any of these options are really what they want. So what they do is they take one of these options, but they continue to look and test and see what really works for me. So I know many people who they continue to study, they did a master's because they really wanted to move directly into business and not just into law, but like they wanted to be in mainstream business. People who want to specialize in social impact, so they joined something, but then they kept learning, or they kind of looked for the right opportunity. So I wanted to be very clear that it's not as if the jobs that are coming through campus placement, which is classic legal law jobs, or law firms, legal companies, and practicing lawyers, litigation, those are the majority. I'd say 80%, 85% of people who graduate get there. But there's a healthy 15%, 20% who are testing other areas and entering those areas, if not immediately, through other pathways later on. I myself mentor and guide many people who are looking at entrepreneurship, looking at media and journalism, looking at working in social impact. And please, I keep clarifying that there's I'm not a big fan of the expression social service. It sort of starts to dumb down social impact into some kind of thing we have to do for the good of people. The good of people should be in everything we do. And social impact is applying your most creative minds to solving the most complex problems that are there, which are the problems affecting millions of people. So I just want to tell everyone that it's not as if here's all these career options and then there's social service, like being good. We have to get over that mindset. We have to make sure that everything we do is ultimately for a higher purpose. So I just want to qualify that. But if you want to move specifically into social impact, like when you're looking to really work with an organization that's focused on a specific social challenge, environment, nutrition, then that's also a real possibility with law.
So these things I'm repeating for everybody's benefit. Sachin is going to delineate what are the various paths that is possible after law. Over to you, Sachin.
Thank you for asking that, Srini. And I just emphasize. Which is how do you do the law that it allows something as big as a Bandra Worli Sea Link in Bombay, like the bridge that crosses like such a big project to happen when different institutions are funding it. How do you enable like the bullet train project to really happen? There's so much legal work that happens, the structure to allow that to happen. So people are doing corporate finance, people are doing mergers and acquisitions when companies combine. And they become one, or one company buys the other. People are doing bank regulatory, which is such a big deal in the last 2 years. As you know, the banking sector has been in a crisis with non-performing assets, if you're reading about that. And their lawyers, like, so much work is happening around each of these areas. So, the business package, the business laws are one direction, the business areas are one direction where all the laws that enable business. International trade has become such a big thing. Shipping, international conflict resolution. Every time two institutions work with each other and there's a challenge. But it's not as if the only specializations are in the business and corporate spaces. A lot of specializations around environment and intellectual property and other areas of law. Like, one of the areas I was super interested in when I was in my final year was space law, which is a rapidly emerging focus area on laws governing space. Now, you might think that, what do you mean by space law? I mean, I'm talking about outer space. When you launch a satellite into outer space, which country is the satellite in? It's not in any country. It's outside. So what are the laws that regulate that if something goes wrong? What are the laws regulating mining on the moon? People are talking about mining on asteroids, mining on different planets, as especially specialist elements like, things that are needed for high technology. So there are, I would say, in the next 10 years, you're going to see a growth of different facets of laws that are areas of specialization, and where you can combine your love for the law and your interest in a specialist area. Like, I'm interested in climate, or I'm interested in the oceans, or I'm interested in hardcore business, or I'm interested in government and politics. How do I acquire my specialist laws, like understanding the Constitution really well? So I would say that those capabilities are there. From a jobs and career point of view, if you're looking for employment, some are more than others, but more and more, you're starting to see different possibilities emerge for young lawyers as they finish law school.
I was just recalling, or I've been talking about, because I read something about Cambridge Analytica and its impact some 3 years ago, and how it was meddled in Brexit and so on and so forth. But now, as we are talking, Zuckerberg is being overhauled and Facebook is overhauled everywhere. So it's
data and privacy law.
Yeah.
Data and privacy. You will be shocked that every company from 5 years back, Somebody in the technology person in the company was told, "Tu yaar data dekh lena. You also look at this issue." Today, every company is hiring a data officer. Every company is hiring a privacy lawyer. So suddenly data and privacy is like everything. So what I'm saying is that, look, reason why law is going to always be an incredibly powerful thing is every area demands legal expertise. Every new area, you talk about an area like artificial intelligence, no laws governing that. But in the next 2 years, they will be created. And you will need to have specialization around that. You're talking about Bitcoin and new cryptocurrencies. Who is going to create the legal framework for that? So I would just say that we are in a very creative space right now. We're going to see an explosion of lawyers and needs of new types of lawyers.
To that dimension, because I keep talking about this space. See, friends, 40 to 50% of jobs that are in demand today did not exist 4 years ago. And I also been reading a lot of articles saying that the kind of jobs that will be in demand in 2022, 80% of them don't exist today. And there are articles which say that 60% of the people who are employed today will be out of jobs because they're not learners. So all of these, as rightly said, today we all have seen Sophia going around talking to everybody. She talks to me in management, and she will talk to Sachin in law, and she will go and talk to somebody else in space science, and the fourth person, artificial intelligence. Imagine machines, either two have been just programmed to do a certain job. Now machines are getting into space to emulate a human being. So that's the direction the world is going. So as Sachin said, there are going to be huge numbers of opportunities emerging, which as we go along, we realize we need law for this, we need law for that, and we need law for something else too. So opportunities are immense. So be good learners, be passionate, be persevering. And I'm sure we can make a huge difference. Each one of you can make a huge difference. Yep.
If I can just reflect on something you said, one of the things you're seeing in every area is that change is happening faster and faster and faster. Every area is changing. You know, at the time of our parents' generation, and even our generation a few years back, you could acquire a knowledge or a skill set and do it through your life. But it's not working like that anymore, Srini. What's happening is that you have to switch over from a specialist, this is my area of expertise, to a learner mindset. And you have to constantly learn new things. You have to constantly stay on the cutting edge. If you don't have the learner mindset, then it's a huge challenge, because whatever you do, it will be redundant, and after 5 years, 10 years, things are changing so fast. So, you know, like the software people, they recognize this. New language was coming up every time. Every time they'd have to learn a new language. So in law, this is a very big thing. In the next 10 years, we are going to see massive changes. Even now, we are seeing that some types of work that only lawyers were doing, now non-lawyers are able to do that work and offer those services to people. And that means that's a threat to lawyers. On the other hand, there's some work that no legal expertise was needed for, but it is needed now, like we were talking about artificial intelligence. So I think things are changing very fast, and we need to, unfortunately, not all our schools have changed fast enough. We're not talking about law schools, we're talking about even just schools. And they're still slow in terms of like, okay, you finish these subjects. But we in 2018 are in a massively fast changing environment. So I think it's important for everyone to embrace that the learner mindset is the most important thing.
Yeah. So I'll come back to, I keep reiterating 3 things. As Sachin said, learner mindset. I always feel, irrespective whether you get a degree or don't get a degree, the first and foremost, as Sachin said, learning. The future is all about learning. Those who are eager learners, curious, inquisitive, and read. Of course, if you have a sound background like going to National Law School, it's going to certainly help. Second important, just look at it. I'm sure there are many of Sachin's friends who are done well, but there are many who are just doing a job. So the second most important thing is courage. Courage to take the leap. Believe in yourself and take the courage. Okay? Possibilities are immense. Third important thing is just look at It's such a very heartening thing, Sachin, looking at you and many more people I come across, irrespective of what playground they play in, irrespective of what roles each one takes, each one, those are the ones who go far, are the ones who are humble. Humility should be thy name. Okay. So 3 things: learning, eagerness to learn, courage to fail, if I got to say that. Fail, what? No, there is nothing called fail actually. Fail is nothing but somebody said first attempt in learning. Okay. So courage to fail, it means courage to learn new things all the time. Third, be humble. So if we are able to incorporate these things as part of our value system, I think we are going to do enormously well. I don't have any doubt everybody sitting in this room in this session is going to do well. There are millions and billions of people, but only a couple of thousands are sitting here. It means there are so many opportunities and each one of you is going to make it happen. Okay. Okay, a few more questions. Sachin, are you okay my throwing those questions?
Absolutely. Whatever I can answer. If there's some specialist questions in areas where I'm not an expert. Remember what we said, I don't know is very important. Very forthright about I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So if you look at the CLAT examinations, a lot of people are worried because never ever very few people go and pick up newspaper. That is the unfortunate part of Indian education system. Outside, beyond the subjects, beyond those examinations, nothing else we see. But when you really encounter the realistic world, something stares at you. How much of GK I should know? How much of static GK I should know? How far into the past I should know? How much of current affairs should I know? So these are the questions that are coming up. Could you just share your thoughts?
Well, we've seen a fair amount of variance over the years. But one thing I've seen is that you have to usually the GK questions are around areas that are relevant today, like are areas that are in the news or for some reason are being brought up. So I think it's important to look at it from the point of current affairs rather than general knowledge. What I mean by that is that there is, of course, basic general knowledge, and you need to understand what is basic general knowledge. Basic general knowledge is often, I'll tell you, when sometimes some of these news channels do what are they called, sting operations, or they ask you who is the vice president. So you need to know your basic general knowledge. Okay, so you need to have that clarity. But then there's current affairs. Current affairs is more things that are in the news that are relevant right now, and I think that you need to have that distinction that you can't. General knowledge is infinite. So you can't, there's a limit to how much you can know, but you need to know the basics. So what are the basics? And I think the courses do a good job of sort of framing the basics of what is general knowledge. What do you need to have, the non-negotiables. And they do that by looking at the past papers and seeing the patterns in terms of that. But then current affairs, is something that comes from reading the newspapers, and you need to know, if that's going to be now the last papers are probably almost on the verge of being set or have been set. So it's going to be like the last 12 months of seeing what are critical topics and what has come up again and again and again, whether it's demonetization or whether it's GST or whether it's bank NPAs or whether it's international legal issues. So I think that getting a grip of some of these issues that have been current affairs in the last 12 months becomes really, really important. Because the people setting the exam are in the same world as you are. They're also tracking those things. So I would suggest that separating these two concepts and being practical about general knowledge, but then being really focused about current affairs is something that I feel is a good, healthy practice.
Couple of questions that have come through, though I've been telling them that these will be handled at the mock examination, other sessions that are regularly happening every afternoon and so on and so forth. Friends, in terms of examination, how many mocks should attempt, manage time for preparation, is 4 weeks good enough, how do I manage time, how do I increase scores? These all will be taken up in another session exclusively meant for it, where we'll do analyze marks, etc. But still, because having Sachin, having taken the exam, having mentored people intensely for a dozen years, I'm still throwing it at Sachin, but I want to say much more deeper. We'll go into these aspects in another session. Over to Sachin.
Yeah, and I want to be honest with people that, look, as I said, I was intensely, actively involved for a very long period of time. But in the last, especially in the last 5 to 7 years, especially around paper strategy, mock strategy, these are things that you need to speak to people who are taking the exams now again and again, the experts. And as Srini said, as LST and CL will set up the right opportunities for you to really dig into that from a strategic point of view. I'll just share 2 or 3 insights that I have felt are useful across the history of the exams. One is, as I mentioned, mapping the strengths and weaknesses and having a clear idea of how your strengths are evolving, how your weaknesses are improving. So across mocks, and these have to be at the same level, the mocks have to be at the same level where you can test out, how things are changing. So very strong mechanism to track those developments is very important. Okay, very important. And therefore, the more tests you can take, the better. The more tests you can take, the better. Absolutely. Because tests build in you a muscle, the muscle of taking tests, of knowing how to balance sections, knowing how to judge a particular type of problem or a particular type of questions. This is that type of question. This is how I should be thinking about it. Isko pehle dikha hai. So I think that more tests you can take, the better. Tests should be taken consistent. So let me just repeat. Number 1, mapping strengths and weaknesses, taking as many tests as possible. Number 2, and number 3, calibrating your tests properly. So making sure that you say, okay, I have access to these 10, 15 tests. Here is the schedule of taking those tests. And I think that the CL LST course does that. It kind of schedules them in a certain way so you can see. But you may have to also personalize it to yourself. You may have also got to say that, what, I think for me, I can add on and do more tests in the beginning itself. Or you tell yourself, I took the first 3 tests, I'm pretty weak at these areas, so I'm going to just 1 week, I'm going to focus on these areas and then take more tests, because otherwise I'm finding myself coming up weak on the same area. So feel free to modify and add tests depending upon whether you feel you're ready for those tests or not, or you want to polish up on areas. So those are some things that I've seen as important. Last point, 3A, is that in test decision making, sections, what sections to do first, what sections to do later, what questions to pick on. This is an art form, and this cannot be answered now. But you need to work with your facilitators and your teachers to be able to get a best sense of what works for you, what's quickest for you. Different people think differently. Like for some people, some sections are energizers and get them to work faster and faster. For other people, some sections are destabilizers that introduce seeds of self-doubt, and then they function slower and slower. So I just want you to kind of get a good sense of what is the best test structure for you to take. But that's not something you can answer now. You can probably answer that only 2 to 3 weeks or later, once you have a better grip of how strong or weak you are in different areas.
I can see there are many students who are really patient, impatient. I call forth for patience. I'm going to share one simple thing. Most of us are now in the phase of preparing or jumping headlong into preparation, right? And many of us have taken the crash course because we are all ill-informed, not well-informed, well ahead of in time. If we do not know what we are stepping into, what does this law actually, what kind of doors does this law program opens up for you? If you don't know the bigger picture, you will be looking at the whole thing as one question that I did not know, one GK I don't know, one vocabulary I don't know. Friends, it's very important for you, each one of you, to understand the larger canvas that you can paint. Only when you know where you are heading, you can't just jump into any bus, say, no, I want to handle the bus. But you should know where the bus is heading. And you may be in the wrong bus. So it's very, very important to understand what are we trying to do in this session. In this session, we are trying to see, and as Sachin as gracefully as accepted, a person who has almost invested 20 years of his life, and his canvas is the whole world. Kindly look at the kind of things we are answering. It's very important for you to be patient. By the time the session is over, we have still half an hour to go. Every one of your questions will be answered. By just being preoccupied with your own only one that question, it is not being answered, you are losing out the benefit of 2 hours. Kindly be patient. Your question will be answered. I will give you the word. We will not go out of this session if your question is not answered. Okay? Kindly be patient. Some of the other questions that have come up, Sachin, if I want to get into corporate law, does it help for me to think about an MBA also? Are all private colleges equally good? Though we have been reiterating that right now do not think about private colleges, think about the larger picture of what law will entail, what will it throw, opens the doors, to then you focus only on your exam. Till you do not have the results in your hand and calls, don't think about where to go. Okay? And some interesting questions like
Jimmy, do you want me to address the question on
then I'll throw the next set of questions. Over to you.
Sure. So on corporate and business, no, most people finish law school and go straight into corporate law. And I have many friends who are partners of top law firms now, and they learn their skills in the field. Usually people end up doing an MBA if they want to start to not do classic legal services, but they actually want to get into mainstream business. Like they want to become investment bankers or actually head up a business function. But usually, am I saying it's not beneficial? No, it is beneficial, but these things cost money and they take time. And do you want to have your learning? Do you need it? The answer is no. But you could still have a learning mindset and learn things, but you don't have to necessarily spend a lot of money and do a full course. You can learn the areas and capabilities that you need. So no, to do corporate and business, you don't need an MBA. The second question that was asked about private colleges, one thing that Srini, I think people may be asking is that, the thing is a lot of these colleges have separate examinations as well, right? I don't think everything is through the CLAT. So of course you can't take every single examination on the planet because you'd be giving all sorts of colleges, right? So you will have to have a sense of what is not worth it. And what is worth it, and also from a money point of view, I don't know how much these forms cost now. They probably cost a fair bit. So, if you're in fact, somebody was joking and telling me that some colleges the form is a good business model of how to kind of, how to survive by selling forms. But I'll just say that I think comparing 2 or 3 credible ratings is always a good idea. Never take one rating, because in our country you just don't know the credibility of one rating. But comparing 2 or 3 ratings, just looking at it okay, generally everyone thinks that these 25 are good. While ye do 3 hai, 5 hai, ye kahan se aaya, I don't know. So, those 25, I think comparing and coming to 25, maybe out of it 17 will be through the CLAT and 8 will be through another 4, 5. You'll end up taking 5, 6 exams. Yeah, sure. But that's unfortunately the problem that happens in our country. And that is common in our country. So as regards good or bad, that's what I'm saying, that rather than saying, Sachin or Srini, is this college good or bad? I'd say, look, the same data that we have, compare it across 3, 4 of these surveys, and you'll get to good answers. You can exclude the ones that seem to be unique to a single survey. Yeah, and we can definitely tell you which are good, the top 7, top 8, which are usually the national law schools, and maybe with ILS thrown in, and And I know that Amity has been doing well, and Jindal Global University Law School is doing very, very well. So there are some which are pretty much everyone knows they're good colleges. So, but I would say compare the top three surveys.
Again, I'm reiterating, we'll try to address as many questions as possible, but more importantly, the scores, your particular scores are not going up or coming down, and how do I address at this point of time, how many mocks to take. I think for that, there are faculty that they are around you in your centers, and every mock will have mock analysis, and there is on your SIS ways of looking at where you stand vis-a-vis competition, where do you lack, and what you should be doing to overcome it or catch up with others. So there are so many things available on your SIS. Kindly go and check there too. This, we have only 2 hours of time, and because all these questions you are asking, which are very specific to you, a faculty that who knows your performance, who can see your 4 or 5 mocks and look at it and give you specific inputs to you, will be of great benefit to you. In this session, expecting such answer to such questions is unfair. But whatever you're getting in this session is going to be invaluable, that much I can assure you. Hope you're all with me. Okay. Sachin, there has always been questions like, so as you said, there are national law schools, there are Amities and Jindals of the world, and for few, perhaps even studies abroad. What is it, because we have seen over 20 years of this education system, how do we perceive the value of each of these, and how do you perceive the value vis-a-vis the costs that are being incurred? Because this must be very, very important dimension, at least for the parents, because each institution will showcase things on you in the face, sort of a thing. I am the best, I am the best. Okay. So could you compare the cost benefit analysis of the choices that the students have, the parents have, and how should one look at these?
Yeah. I would say that once again, I think it's really useful to look at some of the raw data of these surveys, where they look at different aspects of the college performance. And sometimes they cover 15, 20, 25, a lot of areas. So you can look at some of these things, but and some of it is, like I said, if the common data is good. There's some colleges that I have no idea why they're considered to be in the top 25, but you can see across 3-4 surveys, generally it's right. But if I had to identify a few things, I would say one thing is to see what students do after they finish the college, or the campus placement performance. And the thing about the campus placement performance is not only that what salaries are people getting, but to see how it's growing and how committed the university is to students having opportunities. So let me clarify. Not just that salary kitni mil rahi hai, but how committed, two things. How committed is the university to growing that process, is behind that process? Are they helping to build relationships with industry and government? Are they doing that? Or are they like students cuddling? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. And second, how much is growing in the last 3-4 years? Is it improving? Is it getting better? So I think it's important to look at campus placement. It's important because it tells you where to go. And not just placement, also what students are doing. Because there are many students who don't go through campus placement, but they are having great outcomes. They are able to go to great next steps. Again, not just salary, but good jobs, good interesting opportunities, creating new things. So, थोड़ा सा काम करना पड़ेगा to figure out वो scene क्या है, because that's a really important thing. The second thing I'll say is that is the perspective of the college well-rounded? Is it you are going to walk in as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old max into that environment? 5 years are going to develop you as a person, as a character, as an individual, as a professional. What is it a collective process? Like, do they look at it holistically, or is it that we are teaching you criminal law, civil law, ho gaya? Or is it like we are developing you as a leader? I think that's important to look at. And you can tell that from the emphasis on leadership development, co-curricular, extracurricular, the way education is done, the emphasis on the way learning is done. And I would say the Socratic method, which they have in the law schools, where case-based learning, that's fantastic. Opportunities for students to participate in co-curricular activities like mooting or case research and analysis, that's really fantastic. So that's the second thing, which is the holistic aspect and the way in which the learning is done. So the first is look at the campus placement. Second is the holistic aspects. And I think the third thing that I think you should look at is the quality of students also. Because you are going to be with these people. You're going to be so you want to be with a good diverse bunch that's not just from your state or whatever, but like a national crowd. That's always beneficial. You learn, build great relationships. You want to be with people from different streams. So I think that's an important thing to look at, because your peer influences you, like I said, more than your faculty influence you. So those three things are, to me, important criteria to do. That's not an easy answer. The easy answer is what we said about the surveys. Look at it, they give you easy answers because they've done a lot of this work. But I think you should yourself, when it comes to picking some colleges you're not sure about, have this research to understand, what is it which college is in a better place than another college. Some colleges have fantastic faculty, but they are not doing anything about what happens to the student after the student graduates. Some colleges have great infrastructure, but the quality of students are only coming from that state, only that city. So you're going to miss out on the national diverse conversation. So yeah, Srini, those are some things that have come to mind.
Been shared, it is important for each one of us to first narrow it down to a few of the colleges of your choice, dive deep, do a little bit of more research in terms of their placements, the faculty profile, kind of work the faculty or institution has done and contributed in the space of law. These are something that you need to do, because if you understand the more about the institution, the kind of work it has done, naturally that will flow into your classrooms and that will enrich your whole journey. The more informed you are, the more grounded you are, and more grinding that you go through, the greater our opportunities. Let me also put in perspective here.
And Srini, this is something where the parents can play a big role. You can allow your child to focus on their preparations. You can do a lot of work on figuring out the right college, but you cannot take an easy route out. You can't say, "Acha, ye bana decision." Your biases, your preferences are important. Don't get me wrong. Your preferences are important, but you have to balance out your preferences with whether the college is genuinely going to help your child develop into the kind of person who people want to work with in different capacities.
As Sachin also rightly saying, as parents, we need to do a lot of work too to facilitate our children. Having said that, the potential is high. Kindly be comfortable, be just focused, prepare. This whole session we have arranged it just to get the bigger picture into, because these early days, you still have 30 days to go. Most of you have actually taken the preparation seriously now. Even if somebody is preparing for last 1 year, now he feels that now I am on the track and I got to do it. So everybody, each one of you attending this session has got into serious mode now, and we felt this is the right time to have a bigger picture. You must have collected some tools, some methods, but you're going to apply it now. Okay? Okay. Sachin, there are couple of interesting questions that have come, though they are very specific in nature, that is looking at a much larger picture. For example, is it really worth going abroad for law, for undergraduate studies? There are many people who finish their law education in India, then go back to Columbia and many more such universities to continue their education system. The courses, do you really suggest that's also we should be looking at? What are the processes, if at all, if you have to look at it, what are the processes to get into such universities abroad? So these are 2-3 questions more or less in that direction.
Yes, and I think these are important questions. This is again another thing. Studying abroad after finishing college in India finishing law school in India is a big thing that has come up with so many young people who consulted me and spoken to me in the last few years. And Srini, my perspective on it has varied with the times. Now it's very difficult after finishing your master's, which is just a 1-year program after you finish law. So people usually go abroad and do masters, a 1-year master's. It's very difficult to get a job in that country because the regulations have tightened. I'm sure everyone has been reading, Donald Trump and blah, blah, blah. Regulations have tightened. It's actually hard to get work visas and stuff, and employers are very aware of that. So if you finish your law in India, just go for a 1-year master's, it can be quite challenging to get a job and get a work permit and to work in those countries. It's not everywhere. I believe that places like Canada and Australia are more friendly, but US, UK, it's not easy. So that's my point is that that's the con, that's the negative. But the positive is that that 1-year experience in a good place can also be a tremendous boost to your capabilities, because some of these colleges are fantastic. They are actually far ahead of some of our Indian colleges. Okay, most of my Indian colleges. Okay, I mean that's the reality. The Columbias, the Harvards, the Chicagos, the Berkeleys, they're good, and Oxford, Cambridge, they're fantastic. So that 1 year from a professional development point of view is fantastic. But if you think of it only from a point of professional development, and then you're going to come back to to India and work, that's fine. Question is, the financing, which is you don't want to put yourself in a situation where suddenly you have a fat loan and you're back in India trying to pay it off. So my point is that you have to take a case-by-case thing. If you want to learn, if you want to continue learning, yes, but can you get a scholarship? Are you able to pay by yourself? Because you don't want to come back to India with a fat loan and have a difficult time paying that off. Because getting a job is harder. Does it mean it's impossible? No, but it's harder. So I don't know if that answers the question, Srini, but it's just a reality of the landscape that today you can get a good legal education in India. You can get a good job in India. You can learn your skills. You don't need to go to the top, these kind of fancy international colleges. You don't need to go. You will benefit if you go, but you have to balance that with all the negatives that I spoke about in terms of cost and lack of ability of jobs outside and stuff. So if you keep these things in mind, you can take a sensible decision at an appropriate time. More and more people are doing specialist courses. And I think by the time you reach the final year of your college, you will find a proliferation of specialist courses that are offered virtually, physically. Trust me, it's going to be very different.
I've been addressing, it's not just limited to law, it's for every other course, because now the universities and their courses and their classrooms are at your desk. The way we are delivering it, university is also delivering it. And you can attend all classes and you can take their exit exam and you're qualified. And let me tell you, the number of visas issued to expats to work in India is higher than number of Indians going abroad. So the world is converging towards India, and it's going to be backyard for many, many more things, as much as it's going to be at the forefront of many, many more things that are emerging. Okay, so Sachin, apart from you, we have already discussed things like artificial intelligence and so on and so forth. The criminology dimension also emerging, the way the Cambridge Analytics, and so it's taking different shapes. So one of the questions a student had asked, and a couple of them have asked about criminology, if I'm keen on how to go about, and what do you see the prospects of specializing in criminology?
I think there are tremendous prospects because criminal law, people think criminal law means murder and, that's there too. But criminal law, criminal jurisprudence is becoming wider and wider and wider. It is addressing elements of personal privacy, data, technology, hardcore crimes, identity theft. The point is it's becoming vast in its scope. As the definition of crimes is increasing, the scope of crimes is increasing, the methods of detection and then legally, like, is that a legal method? How do you collect information? How can it be used in court? It's amazing to see the expansion of that. It's huge. So if your idea of criminal law is, what is that wonderful Sunny Deol movie? What is that? Talak pe talak, or whatever. You have some kind of fixed idea. It's not. It's a very sophisticated area. And again, to your question about criminology, getting into the jurisprudence part and getting into then the techniques for data collection and evidence collection, and you're going to have to constantly learn. It's going to become more and more sophisticated. So I think that it's one of the most exciting areas. I personally think it's like a really exciting area. And again, massive learning, but the value is huge. The private sector needs you big time to make sure that you can ensure that they don't commit or they can protect people against crimes. The government, police services and government services need you. Civil society needs you, because more and more and more the people who are affected by criminal law are the poorest, are the most underprivileged. Somehow the elites and the upper middle classes and even most of the middle classes are not affected so much by criminal law. They can find ways around it in our wonderful country. Huge, but requirement of learning and possibly studying further outside you finish your undergrad. That's one area where studying further seems to be a necessary part of really becoming a sophisticated criminal lawyer or a criminologist.
If you've been listening to Sachin, in fact, Sachin said that international law is not just about laws, comparable laws of other countries, but also he said that outer space. Who does the outer space belong to? If garbage is on India's
exactly.
space, does India have a role to play? Or so if the source is the problem or usage is the problem, there are people say that, okay, can I harness space on top of India, this space, and say this belongs to me? So there are many more questions. Sachin has addressed it, but still I throw back to Sachin to a little bit share on international law and opportunities or potential. Sachin.
International law. So there's public international law, which is the law dealing with countries, which is becoming a huge area. And I'm sure that most of you are following the Kulbhushan Jadhav case. India and Pakistan are discussing in the International Court of Justice. There is huge public international law cases between countries because where do they discuss their disputes, and where the challenge, and it's a very challenging area because countries, once International Court of Justice decides something, the countries have to enforce it, and if they don't enforce it, then the only way in which they can be made to enforce it is if the international community respects that and puts sanctions on them or does other stuff, right? So sometimes it's hard. International law is hard because countries can choose not to enforce what is being done, because sometimes they say, okay, fine, other countries want to put a sanction on us, no problem, but we are not going to follow this. But what I want to just mention is that there are many other international laws that are not public international law. For instance, laws of trade, which is huge. International trade law, which includes international shipping law and others, is absolutely massive because so much international trade is happening. So I would just emphasize that that is another world by itself, international trade law. And then there are international banking laws. And because one thing is to deal with an entity or an organization in India and to look at like how do laws affect that. But the other thing is to deal, and today more and more of the work is happening across countries. So I would just say that every aspect of law contains international aspects, whether you're specializing in corporate law, whatever, you have international aspects. But there are people who specialize in the international relationships between institutions or between countries. So very exciting areas. A lot of, there's also, by the way, to the question, the person who asked the question on criminal law, there's also international criminal law, which is a huge thing. For instance, there are some aspects of this terrorism issue that deal with that. So I think that we are seeing the boxes are breaking. More and more you're being forced to learn many things. You can't just say, I've got a hammer and everything I see is a nail. I'm going to just, that's it. You have to learn many allied areas to really be good at what you
do. Sir, for being an expert in international law, are the Indian colleges good enough, or you should study at international college?
Well said. And you know, it's a very good question because it's true. I think that Indian colleges are weakest in international laws. So many people who want to go and practice, who do work in international environments, go to the New Yorks and the Londons and the Hong Kongs to study. It is true. Indian colleges, but they don't study. You can do that as a master's, specialized master's. Again, you'll have to think about the other risks that I spoke about, cost and whether you want to work there and stuff. But the master's is most useful when you're looking at these added specializations like international law, which are not so strong in the domestic colleges.
Somesh. In nature, and there are people who are comfortable with understanding, knowledge, language, communication, interactivity. Perhaps you will see them in front of the camera, okay? And there are people who are good in finance, would perhaps managing the finance of creating a movie or a television channel, and so on and so forth. As much as I said, law is also a part of media, like any other profession. So, Sachin, is there something specific that you would like to talk about media and law?
No, I think you covered it. I'll only say that if you want to be a journalist, then law is a really powerful thing. Not if you want to work in media. The world of working in media is much more than just journalism. But if you want to be a journalist, law is great because a lot of the skills like research and liberal thinking and the using of tools, that's really strong.
Interesting question. What are the challenges? I'm just asking out of curiosity. That's what the questioner asked. In setting up practice, what are the things that I've got to overcome to set up my own practice if I got to have my own firm?
Yeah, I think that's one question that hundreds of you who are online would kind of really be on your mind. The question of litigation, of setting up your practice. Look, there's one major challenge. Your earning potential in your early years is much lower because you are nothing. You don't have a reputation. So unlike working in an institutional environment like a law firm or a company where someone's giving you a job and giving you a salary, you work as an apprentice to a senior lawyer. The senior lawyer is going to give you a much smaller amount of money, much smaller. And that's not going to be enough to pay rent and do stuff. So very often you need to, okay, let me just take it back and say it's not as if it's not enough to pay rent and all, but you have to do ragada. But I will flip this and say, in terms of reward, in terms of quality of enjoyment, my litigating friends are really thriving. So they took the ragda of the first 2-3 years, but now they are earning fantastically. They're loving their work and arguing in court. And so you see, it's like no pain, no gain. And in the litigation, the challenge is that, so to your question, that's not the complete answer. The answer is the challenges are figuring out your financial situation in the first 2 to 3 years, especially if you come from an environment where your parents can't provide that extra support, or you can't get some kind of other way of kind of paying for yourself. First 2-3 years is a challenge. Getting the support of a senior lawyer who can show you the ropes, who can teach you how things work, that's really important, because that's the way you learn. Law school won't teach you so much about the hard realities of the practice of the law in the courts. You can do internships and learn that, but you only get that when you're actually doing it, when you're out there working in the courts. So that's the second thing, which is getting the support of the senior lawyers to kind of show you the ropes. And the third thing is, again, having that constant learning mentality, because every case might be different. Every area that you litigate might be different. So I think that these three things are critical to succeed. The skills, of course, you need to be comfortable articulating arguments and speaking and all, but that's something that law school can teach you. So you don't need to think, oh my God, I'm a little shy. How will I know friends of mine who were very shy, but who developed into fantastic litigating lawyers.
Tough to be in a law firm?
Yeah, it is, the early years of any job are hard because you are the junior most person and you get the most amount of work and the seniors expect you to deliver. And in law firms, especially in Bombay and Delhi law firms, this culture is quite challenging, but like immense amounts of work and working late. But that's a part of growing up. That's a part of your development process. And I think that roughness and toughness is going to make you into a more sophisticated lawyer and professional. So don't run away from it. This is not for me, and I want it. It's going to be. This is the learning process.
See, it's very important. If you want to, there's some purpose with which you are looking at law, and if I go to climb Mount Everest, one way of doing it is first go through the easiest route, then suddenly you realize, wow, I have to climb. Or other way is you say, here, I got to start now itself. So believe you me, the earlier part of life, if you go through tough phase, tribulations, you got to put yourself into tough situations. The greatest growth of a human being has always happened in the toughest of situations. Learnings happen only in the toughest of situations. Imagine if you're reading newspapers and reading articles, you would have realized somebody who is a 90-year-old, and there are many such lawyers, couple of them keep coming in the newspapers. 94-year-old lawyer is still in demand and he charges 20 lakhs for 2 minutes of appearing in the court. Can you imagine why it doesn't happen overnight? He has invested his lifetime to make the 2 minutes worth 25 lakhs. Over to Sachin. Anything comment on it?
No, absolutely true. And I'll say this. Hard work and the right hard work is a learned capability. So if you feel like I don't know if I can do it or not, no, it's a learned capability. You can continue to develop it, and law school can also help you with that. But yeah, I would really, very often in the past when I would speak to law aspirants, they would get most excited about how much money senior lawyers make. They'd be like, oh my God, I also want to. And can I just say to you that most senior lawyers will tell you that after a point, it doesn't matter how much they make, because at that point they reached a long time back, because satisfaction and fulfillment is not coming through that. So I want everyone to be really aware that that is the reality. The reality is you need a certain amount of money to be comfortable. And beyond that, satisfaction and fulfillment will not come through that. It will come through the quality of your work and the quality of your impact as an individual. That's the reality. And today I am 20 years of experience. Srini has much more. We talk to people every time. That is the unequivocal reality. So how do you set yourself up for that? To do great work, to be a good capable, creative, professional? That is the more important question here. You have to see it from that point of view.
Questions here. In fact, Sachin has addressed them while he was addressing many other questions. The question is, I don't want to practice, but would law degree be of value in my at the personal level? That's one question. And perhaps the other question is, this also is addressed, how is NLS different from a BHU or Jamia, like central universities? I'll ask Sachin to reiterate, though he has addressed it.
You said, how is law as if I don't want to be a lawyer? I think it's a great degree. I think it's a great learning, especially if you're not sure. See, if you, on the other hand, have a technical bent of mind and you think you want to be in something, that's another matter. But if you're not sure and you have a slightly kind of more liberal arts, more fluid bent of mind, then law is an amazing thing because it keeps many doors open. Mark my words, it keeps many doors open. And it's a great foundation builder. So it's a great thing for people who are not sure. But you've got to be have a sense of your leanings. So remember what I said about I don't know is great, but it's also important to have a sense of who you are. So you have to balance out a sense of who you are. You know, like as they say in our philosophy, your dharma, your personal dharma, right? Your nature, your thing. You have to know and, you know, kind of make decisions, right? So it's like a balance. So is it for every person who's not sure about the future, is it a good option? No. Depending on certain aspects of your nature, you know, you're a critical thinker, you're kind of interested in social issues, you're interested in a combination of different subjects, you're interested in some of these areas like media and leadership and governance and politics and the economy. Yes. Oh no, I'm interested in circuits and making do-it-yourself computers. I mean, but I'm not sure what I want to be. Maybe law is not the best thing for you. So that's something to keep in mind. To the second, comparing law school and BHU and all, I don't know. I don't think that's what's the basis of that question. I want to push back and say, what's the basis of the question? If you're seeing comparing them as law schools, I mean, you have to look at all the things that we spoke about earlier. You have to see the national law schools are specialist law schools, legal institutions. They are not general universities that are also offering a law course. Very big difference. General university offering a law course may be good because it may have a good faculty, whatever, but it's not built entirely around studying law. While the law schools are built very much around studying law, and that has advantages. It has some disadvantages, multidisciplinary thinking, but generally I feel it has advantages. So studying in specialist law schools definitely has significant advantages.
From Rupali, she says that when you talk about law, it is all about article so-and-so, sub-article so-and-so. How much important is it to remember all these things in life as a lawyer? Is it without remembering also can one practice?
Once upon a time, it was like the lawyers that were celebrated were like in 1962 on August 14th at 2:30 p.m. the justice this person. Okay, some people have that. They remember so many things. Their memory is very strong. But in today's day and age, it's a different thing. I mean, you can access what you need to know like this. You want to find a case dealing with privacy and criminal justice in Andhra Pradesh between 1980 and 1990. You can find it like this through technology. So the point I'm making is you don't need to shove your head, but to remember concepts and things. And those things come to you through your love for it. You can come through as you enjoy it. If you enjoy something, you will build in your mind a mental model that will be useful to do it. So I would say that no, this notion that somehow you need to remember and all that, no, you need to prepare when the time is right, you have access to technology. I don't think that that's the key thing.
Being asked is, Sir, how do you compare a 3-year LLB plus 2 years LLM with the integrated? Is it necessary for somebody looking at law should take the integrated path, integrated way, or other thing also works?
Other thing works. Other thing works. The challenge is there are not that many independent LLBs, good LLBs in the country. That's the problem. There's Campus Law Center, which is good. I think ILS is good, but I think its integrated is better than its 3-year independent. There are not many. The best ones are the integrated ones. So it's less a problem with the basic idea that whether it's better to do integrated or independent. It's just that we don't have that many good independent.
Avatar, the 3 plus was good Avatar, but over the last 2 decades, the integrated courses have made a huge difference, and it has become the mainstay.
Okay. Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions if you have? I'm sure I might have disappointed a few of you who are specifically asking about your performance in the mocks and so on and so forth. I will assure you, I'm going to talk and get a separate session on mocks and the relevance of mocks, your performance on mocks, and so on and so forth. And that I assure you in the coming week, I'll make it happen. So if you have, nowadays there are many people who opt for law as a career. If you see the other side of the coin, one who are not opting for one such course are totally unaware about the constitution and prevailing legal system, the basic knowledge relating country's legal system. The possible ways to make a citizen more aware of basics. The one that comes to my mind is by introducing very basics of law in school syllabus and teaching system. Please enlighten, does it make sense to make understanding of law and constitution part of integral to the regular school syllabus and education system?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is supposed to be done through some of your civics courses. Nobody cares about it. It's done very poorly usually, but absolutely. Having a basic understanding of constitution and the legal framework is essential for any citizen of the country. You are helpless without it. You are not a full functioning democratic citizen without it. So the answer to that question is an unequivocal yes.
See, I am interested in creative acting, directing, and blah, blah, blah sort of a thing. Does legal education sharpen my creative dimension too in generally selecting stories? And yeah, certainly to some extent there are a lot of creative people who are designing, who are writing stories only. All movies are made only on law. And there is one of my friends who has been writing stories only on banking. Incidentally, the Punjab National Bank story about 2 diamond merchants vanished. He wrote a book 3 years ago because he had inside information how the diamond industry is plundering the banking. So of course, but let me throw it to Sachin to address this. How does it sharpen my creative side of it?
It's a great question. Here's what I will say. I think that law schools can do more to offer strengthening your creative capabilities and to nurture a more creative culture. They can do more. They are not doing enough. They're not the strongest environments. But if you are a creative person who's been nurturing these things with yourself, then what they do is massively amplify your social understanding and give you a set of tools that in combination with your creative capabilities make you a better storyteller and filmmaker and stuff. But to your question, they don't nurture your creative capabilities directly. They're nurturing your understanding so that you can be a better creator. You see the difference? But they are not focusing on. That's why lawyers often find themselves not adequately creative in a big way. I'm not talking about like, this section we can get around by doing this. Wo sab creativity, that is not to me something to be celebrated massively. I think what we're talking about is the ability to imagine new things, the ability to combine new things. I think that's inadequate in the legal community.
How many years you feel an individual who is a lawyer, passing out lawyer, need to train under eminent lawyers to set up his or her own practice?
I think the general average is ranges from 4 to 6, 4 to 7. That's the general average.
An average BBA LLB student need to study in a day. In the law school, how much of time do you invest in study? And how does a day in a law school really span?
I would rather not answer that first question because I suspect it's coming from, it's very similar to the question you asked. Like, it's almost like, kitna padna padega, like whatever. Rather, I talk about a day in the life. I think, usually you have 4 to 6 hours of your college curriculum. You'll end up doing 2.5 hours focused on, beyond that, focused on projects related to your curriculum, focused on maybe some classwork, focused on maybe an upcoming test or something. But then you have the rest of the day free, and people do it for the extracurriculars, co-curriculars, personal. So, and then of course, when there are exams, it can be more intense. But generally, I feel that it's a very well balanced curriculum. That's in law school. As a lawyer, I mean, that's, that varies massively. But in law school, this is what it looks like. I'd say, in addition to your 4 to 6 hours of curriculum work, you probably end up doing 2.5 hours of preparatory work.
We will address all these questions later. Once you join a law school and then work with an eminent lawyer, you will figure out how to get clientele without advertising. So Pulkit is jumping the gun and going ahead. So friends, if you have any questions, kindly throw at it. We are already past 2. It's about 2:15, and it's right time that I think we have managed to address quite a few things on law, the firmament and the whole scape of law. Thank you very much, Sachin. It has been a pleasure listening to you, and I am taking away a lot from this session. I'm sure each of the student and the parents who have been listening or being part of this session from home, I'm sure would have carried a lot too. Friends, on behalf
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you. It's been, and I'm very happy to, kind of interact more. I know the impatience around exact questions on the preparation and stuff, but if people want to learn more about what it actually looks like, the legal field, I'm happy to kind of, spend more time. So thank you for this opportunity.
Have come and how much is the basic marks to get into NLU? What is a good score for getting into NLS?
I don't have the answer for that right now. I think the latest one will the last 5 years. When you have the specialist course, when you have the special seminar or discussion for that can be addressed there.
How much should I score minimum? We will take up these things in the mock session that is coming up next week. I promise that I'll make it happen in the coming week. Okay. With those thoughts, on behalf of each one of you, every parent sitting there, on behalf of the whole CL fraternity, Sachin is part of CL fraternity. I thank Sachin on behalf of everybody. Thanks a lot. Maybe you should have a quick lunch and grab a couple of hours sleep. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I'll keep bothering you maybe once in a month or once in 2 months. I think this is a fantastic, and perhaps we can take up various issues and have these sessions. Friends, yeah, Sachin, you're saying something.
No, I was just thank you anytime.
This is the way to go. I want each one of you to go to the feedback, click on the feedback link on the top of your page and give feedback. Imagine getting the best of the brains, best of the people from across the world come into your home, into your classrooms through this mode, these means. This is the direction to go forward. I can tell you there are innumerable number of people who have logged on to this session through mobiles. They may be in the bus, they may be in the station, they are somewhere else and they have logged in. This is the direction to go, and I look forward to your constructive feedback so that we can make these sessions much more valuable, and this whole channel is going to serve you 24/7 as I see it in the future. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, wonderful weekend. Auf Wiedersehen. Good evening. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sachin. Thanks, Archita. You found this session very, very useful. It's amazing. We'll keep coming back to you with many more sessions.